Hey y'all, getting ready to read out of our book, An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States for Young People. I know it looks backwards to you. And we're reading the introduction chapter. It starts on page 1. Feel free to follow along. All right, this land. Under the crust of that part of the earth called the United States of America are buried the bones, villages, fields, and sacred objects of the first people of that land. The people who are often called American Indians or Native Americans. And we know that Angelo is Native American. Somebody help him find out what nation he's from. Their descendants, also called indigenous peoples, carry memories and stories of how the United States came to be the nation we know today. It is important to learn and know this history, but many people today lack that knowledge and understanding because of the way America's story has been taught. Like most people, Americans want to think well of themselves, their ancestors, their history, and what their leaders do. As advanced technology makes the experiences of Indigenous peoples around the world more readily available, it is necessary that Americans learn to think more completely and more critically about their own history, because it can help them be better citizens of the world. Part of that critical thinking involves recognition that America is a name given to two land masses by European colonizers. Europeans are white people originally from Europe back in like the 13, 14, 15, 1600s. So that's what they mean by Europeans. And then colonizers are people that take over other people's land to make it their own. Indigenous peoples had and have words for the land in their own languages. Then and now, everything in U.S. history is about the land. Who oversaw it, who planted the crops on it, fished its waters, maintained its wildlife, who invaded and stole it, how it became a commodity or real estate, broken into pieces to be bought and sold. As anthropologist Patrick Wolf writes, land is life, or at least land is necessary for life. And by land, we don't just mean like the dirt, but we mean all of the dirt and space, and then all of what you could do with that dirt and space. So, all of the ground where you have houses now, and buildings, and trees, and anything. Somebody owns the land that everything sits on. So, owning land in America is a big deal. One interesting activity is to quickly draw a rough outline of the U.S. at the time it gained independence from Britain. Go ahead, take out a sheet of paper and try it. If you didn't get a chance to try this on the board, I think you should pause the video and go try it. Did your outline look something like this? Gotta remember that it's backwards. I wonder if I can change this midway. Yes, I can. Well, it's going to change the breaking news, but this is better for you guys. Did your outline look something like that? Because that's how America used to look when they first started colonizing it. Or did it look more like this? Teachers who have done this activity with their students say that most of them draw the shape of the current United States from the Atlantic to the Pacific. But the US didn't look like that until a century after independence. What became independent in 1783 were just 13 British colonies hugging the Atlantic shore. When teachers remind students of this, they can get embarrassed. They know better, but somehow they forget. They are not alone. This is a common mistake. What has happened since Europeans first encountered the land masses known as North and South America? Most books about American history say they were discovered by Christopher Columbus and other Europeans, settled by courageous English citizens seeking religious freedom, and expanded by brave settlers who moved westward in search of adventure and a better life. Lies. Most people's understanding of what it means to be an American is founded upon such tales, which together form a myth like origin story. And we all know that myths are not the truth. Origin stories of the United States. Origin narratives, or stories about how this all began, help a group of people feel that they belong to a community with a common past and shared ideas about what is important. Origin stories are central to a people's sense of a unifying identity. However, origin stories may leave out key aspects of what actually happened and overemphasize others. That is the case with the most familiar origin story of the United States. In the late 15th century, as European explorers sailed to unfamiliar places, their actions and beliefs were guided by the doctrine of discovery, the idea that European nations could claim the foreign lands they discovered. What that means is that white people had decided that wherever they went, if they saw somebody who was there already, it didn't matter because they were white, they get to own that land and they get to say they discovered it first. Let's see. The doctrine of discovery was laid out in a series of communications from the Pope, leader of the Catholic Church, who was extremely influential in European politics at the time. It asserted that indigenous inhabitants lost their natural right to that land as soon as Europeans arrived and claimed it. That's like saying, because your friend came over and walked in your room, as soon as they walked in your room, that now the room is theirs. Negative. Whew. People whose homelands were discovered were considered subjects of the Europeans and were expected to do what the discoverers wished. If they resisted, they were to be conquered by European military action. This enabled Columbus to claim the Taino people's Caribbean home for Spain and to kidnap and enslave the indigenous peoples. Similarly, the Pilgrims and the Puritans, the first groups from England to settle what became the United States, believed they had a covenant with God to take the land. The doctrine of discovery influenced the policies of the young United States and directly affected the lives and the very existence of Native people. However, history textbooks for young people like you guys rarely invite students to question or think critically about that part of the U.S. origin story. Free land, with all of its resources, was a magnet that attracted European settlers to the Americas. The word settler is used so frequently that most people do not recognize that it means more than just a person who settles down to live in a new place. Throughout history, it has also meant a person who goes to live where supposedly no one else has lived before. More often than not, settlers have gone to live somewhere that is already home to somebody else. They are important to a nation like Britain or Spain when it plans to set up colonies in an area. Colonization is the process of taking political and that means the laws, and economic, that means the money, control of a religion, and colonizers are the people or institutions that are, let's skip a page. Let me see. Colonization is the process of taking political and economic control. That means taking control of the rules and taking control of the money of a region, not religion. That's why I got confused. I knew that didn't make sense, so I had to go back. Colonization is the process of taking political and economic control of a region, and colonizers are the people or institutions that are a part of that process, like the military, business interests, people who get to live there, and sometimes representatives of a religious institution. Because of their key role in establishing and populating a colony, settlers may be called colonizers. Settlers who came to what is currently known as North America wanted land for homes, farms, and businesses that they could not have in their home countries. And that's where I'm going to stop today on page 7. So we read together pages 1 through 7 of the introduction. And what I want to know is, I want to understand from you guys which part from what we read was really difficult to understand. There was a lot of large words in this first part. We had colonizers, we had colonization, we had settlers, we had doctrine of discovery, um, we had indigenous, we had lots of words that we may not use when we're talking all the time. And we may not have seen these words in books before. And so I want to know which one of these words from our reading today was difficult for you. I want you to record a video, tell me which words you struggled with, and or tell me which parts of the chapter that you enjoyed the most. I also want you to read the rest of the chapter on your own. And if some of you feel comfortable with recording your reading, feel free to send it to me. All right, happy reading, and I can't wait to hear from you guys.